Welcome to All Home Care Matters, the show where we discuss all things home care, with discussions on important age-related matters and topics. Brought to you by Enriched Life Home Care Services, the #1 rated home care provider in Michigan by Top Rated Local.
Hello, and welcome back to All Home Care Matters. If this is your first time visiting us here at the show, we want to say thank you for taking time out to be with us today. We appreciate how valuable everyone's time is, and that's why we try and make each episode here at All Home Care Matters something that will hopefully matter to you. Today, we are excited to welcome Christina and Cindy, the founders of Adaptive Equipment and the Caregiving Corner. Welcome.
Thanks for having us, Lance. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure. So, Cindy, let's start with you. Why don't you share with our viewers and listeners a little bit about your background and how you got involved in the work that you're doing?
Okay. I am a physical therapist, and I have been practicing for about 30 years. And most of my career, I've spent the majority of it in the home health setting. And, I just really enjoy the senior population, getting to visit with people in their homes and really learning about their activities during the day and how to help them maintain their existence there at home as they age. So that's kind of what my passion has been throughout my career, and is what kind of guided me toward this business as far as educating.
Wonderful. And Christina, we've spoken previously and you're sharing some of your experiences with me, but for our viewers and listeners who may not be aware, what is your background and what was it that brought you into this field?
Yeah. So by training, I'm a speech language pathologist, and most of my career has been spent in long-term care, and with speech therapy. Most people don't know this unless you're a speech therapist or in therapy. Speech therapy does so much more than just work with people with their speech. A lot of people hear speech therapy and they think of, oh, I had a speech teacher when I was, in school. Well, we also work with people in long-term care, the geriatric population, maybe post-stroke or with some kind of neurological disorder that they have. And so most of it has been, the majority of my caseload has been working with people with dementia, people living with dementia, people living with dysphagia or difficulty swallowing. That's a huge area that we deal with. And frankly, that's one of my favorite things that I work with, that and people living with dementia, as well as possibly some kind of an aphasia, maybe a post-stroke or something along those lines. They've lost the ability to use language, either to receive language and understand what's being said to them, or express themselves in an efficient way, like we use language. So, that's kind of how I got started. Right out of college, I was a speech teacher in a school system, and then I started working in long-term care. And I don't know, I loved working in long-term care. That was my favorite so far.
And Cindy, you're in home health care.
Yes, I am. Mm-hmm.
Now, viewers and listeners, they often get home care and home health care confused. I don't know if you encounter that yourself, but
yes.
We do.
Yes.
We do constantly, even from people who should know better.
Right.
What is it about home health care that really attracts you to that field versus, say, like with Christina in long-term care facilities?
I enjoy being in an individual space, being in their home. To me, it's for me in particular, it's much more relaxing. I get to communicate with them kind of in their space and on their level. And, then adding to my job of, we're going to try to physically rehabilitate you or help you maintain your function. And it just makes sense to me. And it's always made sense to me. Let's do that where they're at. Let's do that in their home, because that's where they want to be. Yeah.
And I want to ask both of you, and I don't want to kind of put you against one another here, but at least for us, we find that when people are receiving therapy or care of any nature and they're in their own home, they seem to do better. Would you agree with this? Or
I would agree completely. Lance,
Absolutely.
I did home health in the middle of my career for probably about 3 or 4 years, and it is different. But as a speech therapist, or as a therapist, I guess, like Cindy said, to kind of echo what she said, you're in their environment, and maybe there's something that, especially when you're talking about communication, right? They can't communicate to me what's different or what has changed since their, whatever's happened, their process has happened. But I could see it, right? I get to talk to their caregiver that is almost always there, versus in a long-term care facility, maybe they're not allowed in for a long period of time, but you get to see them in their environment. And I can pick up on a lot of those things that maybe I could say, I noticed you did this and I noticed you did that. Maybe you ought to try this, or maybe you ought to try that. And to me, it just makes more sense. But I like long-term care only because it was just a constant. It was like a revolving door of new cases of people, all the time. And I didn't have to travel to go see them. That was kind of cool too. Now I have to travel to go see them. But I really enjoyed my time in long-term care, or in the home health. But long-term care is kind of where my heart really is.
Well, and especially for therapy, I do appreciate the fact that sometimes there might be certain equipment or things that you need to do that's not available or practical for in the home as well.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. And when you get to those circumstances, and you're right, the people that are needing major care, maximum assistance, things like that, can make it difficult at home. God bless a lot of those caregivers. Yeah. They're doing it. They are certainly doing it. And again, that's part of what we try to do, is come in and let's try to figure out what's going to help in those situations. And then when you've got the people that are very physically active and have progressed well and need a little bit more weighted equipment and things like that, it is a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, we also do, Lance, we also do home safety assessments as Adaptive Equipment and Caregiving Corner. And we certainly can attest to that. We drive around, we're getting ready to get a minivan because we drive around with this equipment in the off chance that maybe we might be able to train a caregiver or a family member or, the patient themselves on a particular piece of equipment. So you always have to be prepared, and that's not easy.
Well, real quick, and we'll follow up on the van. On the other flip side, that we tell families when our staff go into a home, if they are getting PT, OT, sometimes they do get speech therapy as well at the house. They're getting it maybe 1, 2, 3 times a week. That's the extent of it. When you're in a facility, though, you're ensuring that they're getting it that 5, 6, 7 days a week, where at home, if they don't have a caregiver there or somebody overseeing their care when therapy's not there, they might not keep up with those exercises. So, everything you accomplish on Monday, you may have lost by Wednesday because they didn't continue it. So, there's pros and cons to both. Absolutely.
It's a bit, and sometimes it feels like that kind of creates a gap, because sometimes you have to go into at least a rehab facility for, some kind of acute care. And then you get transferred back home. And it really seems like that kind of creates a gap. So you get all this skilled care in a facility, and then you go home, and as therapists, we do our best to train the family caregiver before we release them back home. But it's that it just creates such that gap, and all that skilled care and that skilled know-how that they get in the facility sometimes doesn't translate back to home, and that just that huge gap like that. But fortunately, with home health, that's where the home health therapists will come in and try to help bridge that gap between the transition back home.
So before we start talking about the Adaptive Equipment and Caregiver Corner, I want to talk about this van. Now, we saw a really cool little image on social media that you guys are embarking on a road trip. Have you started the road trip, or is that about to start?
This is going to be, we haven't started yet. We've been this is only going to be our second road trip. Last year we went out to the East Coast. We went out to all the way to New Jersey, to the Jersey Shore, until we hit the ocean. We turned around and came back. But this year, part 2 road trip is going to be down to Florida. Okay. And so what we did is we packed up the van full of all of our little fun toys that we had and pieces of equipment, and we stopped along the way to senior care facilities, senior centers, anybody that would let us provide a free educational presentation to them, and gave our presentation and gave the viewers or the audience an opportunity to engage with the equipment that we brought along with us. But I'm going to tell you what, Lance, we had that van packed
I'm sure.
It was a borrowed van,
It
so
was-
now we're working on one of
Yeah,
our own.
Yeah, so now we're trying to get our own.
Now, where you guys originate from when this road trip, when you embark, where are you coming out of?
We're coming out of O'Fallon, Illinois. So that's
Illinois.
about 30 minutes east of St. Louis, Missouri, on the Illinois side of the Mississippi. So yeah, it'll going down. We'll probably head down, through Tennessee and Georgia, and hopefully our hope is to be able to make some stops along the way, and get some people that are interested in having a free presentation.
Well, let us know, because we're neighbors here in Michigan. We could set you up with a couple of places on, en route of your road trip if you're interested.
Yeah.
Just let us know.
That would be awesome, Lance. We
Excellent.
certainly would appreciate it. It's nice to have at least one a day all the way down. That would be super nice. So
Terrific. So this brings us to the adaptive equipment and caregiver corner, or caregiving corner. What is the origin of how this started? How the two of you brought this idea to fruition and what it is today?
Actually, it originally started in 2015.
yeah,
And I was in home health. Were you in home health at
we were
that
both
time?
in
Yeah, we
home
were
health,
both in home health. And you have a lot of the frequently asked questions by the caregivers. It was just kind of in the process of where we were changing from paperwork to computer work. And, people weren't used to looking at the top of people's heads. And so we thought, let's start answering some of these questions on video. Let's try to utilize this as partly as patient education. Let some of the caregivers and the clients watch this while we're trying to do some of the paperwork. Let's go over it. Let's review it. That's because it's education. And we started out as a YouTube channel in 2015, kind of progressed along from there, and really wanted to try to make a go of it around 2018. About 2020, we had established a website and what we call our premium videos, which are a subscription, and got set to go. And then COVID happened.
yeah.
And then so we had a little confusion business-wise as to what was happening. Was it COVID? Was it, just that no one really knew we were out there? But that's kind of what we've done.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of are trying to hit different aspects of caregiving and caregiver support, as far as information, as far as home safety assessments, as far as these free presentations and education. So that's kind of us.
So now our YouTube channel has kind of changed from, not just giving information like caregiver information, but now it's about, and this is my favorite part, is we get these caregiver turn entrepreneur, right? So they're like, you know what, I had this idea and I created this product when I was during my caregiver journey. So I developed this product and it really helped me. So now my caregiving journey is done and now I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And so now they sell this product, they manufactured this product and they're now selling it. We get a lot of those companies that send us their product.
Sure.
And we make these free videos for them for our YouTube channel. And so that's when you go to our YouTube channel, most of the time what you're going to see on there is usually a caregiver, a product that was developed by a caregiver. And my favorite part is the backstory, is how it came to be. Because most of the time it's just, you're like, that's genius. That's brilliant. Yeah. Awesome. I love it. And so we try to raise their product and their company up a little bit too. So,
Well, let me ask each of you, do either one of you have a particular, and I don't want to single anyone out, but do you have a specific favorite product that somebody has sent to you that has just stood above the rest that you could think of?
Yeah. You want to?
Yeah. We get so many good products. I mean, they're awesome. But one of the things, being a physical therapist and knowing over my career how much physical effort I have put into helping people when transfer, and we're talking about getting up and down, is a product called the Foot Bar Walker. And it is a game changer as far as caregivers are concerned and the client concerned, because it is utilized if a client is able to pull themselves up. A lot of times people can't push themselves up into standing, but they can certainly grab on and pull. And it's a walker that counterbalances that pull very minimally on the caregiver, and it allows that person to be able to pull themselves up. So it's helping, it could help a caregiver keep somebody at home longer, because if the only problem is that they cannot physically get somebody up, but maybe that person can take some steps or walk with a walker once they're up. That's a big leap. And if you have that bridged, it's amazing what that can do. And that's been one of my most favorite products, just because of the benefits to both the client and the caregiver.
And it was created by a couple down in Tennessee. They had a neighbor who was bringing her husband home. He had been diagnosed with Lewy body dementia, and she of course was smaller than he was, and she could not get him out of the chair. And so they reached out to this couple and asked them to help design a walker or something that she could use, and that's how the footbar walker came to be. It's just amazing. Yeah.
Now we'll have links to all of the connections to the Adaptive Equipment and Caregiving Corner, and we'll see if we can find a link to the foot bar too. Do they have a website?
They do. Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we can get that up as well. So is your channel, so you have two models. You have the free videos, and then you have a subscription base, but then that's broken down to, is it company versus personal subscription?
Correct. Yeah. When we first started it, as professional caregivers, I guess, so to speak, our main goal was to sell to organizations and companies, because we know that caregiving is hard. It's hard on the body, and it's hard on your wallet. It's expensive. And so we were, our big push was to market to organizations and companies. But as we've gotten out more on our social media accounts, we were getting a lot of people, caregivers, that are reaching out for this information. And so we've made it, it's $10 a month for a caregiver to subscribe. We realize your journey might not last long, so you use it as long as you need. You use it for a month and you can cancel it, at no cost or anything. You're not going to always be in it. So so we started kind of marketing it more towards the caregivers, just because they seem to be the ones that were really interested in needing help and stuff. Of course, the staff that work for some companies, like the home health staff, we get a lot of people reaching out to us about videos and stuff like that. And it's just kind of where we're going as a society too, right? To videos, everybody wants to see how to do it. So when we do videos of any kind, whether subscription or not, we try to keep them as simple as possible, and we try to keep them certainly under 5 minutes. And then if they're on our social media, we try to keep them around a minute. So, yeah.
Do the subscribers, is that through the YouTube channel, or do you have like a Venmo or Vimeo?
We have it. It's on our website. You could go to our website, and we've got the two plans. We got a caregiver plan and then like an enterprise plan. And then the caregiver can subscribe right then and there. And it's just a link, and it goes through Stripe, and they pay for it, and then it drops them off on their dashboard.
And they can just pay as they go. They're not locked into a long. That's wonderful. Now let's talk about the enterprise. That's geared more towards companies or
and organizations. Yeah. And that is with that. So when we first started, we were just strictly, buy the subscription, create a dashboard. So you're going to need an email. You're going to have to create a password. And what we found was that was really shutting off a lot of access to that gap, for some seniors that didn't either have an email account or weren't familiar with how to use that. So we kind of redid the whole thing, the whole idea, and that's kind of how the companies and the organizations came to be. So we did like we called a magic link. And so we co-brand the dashboard to the company that purchased the subscription. But the whole point is if we can make it accessible for these companies, for their clients, then they could put it on their website, and then their clients can come to it. And then all I have to do is just click a button, and they have access to it. So it makes it super easy. You don't have, whereas like with the caregiver, you have to create your own dashboard, so for the companies, it's more of it's an opportunity, I think, for the companies and organizations to go, you know what, we care about keeping you in our caregiver community, so much so that we have this whole library of over 200 videos that we think can help you in your caregiver journey, and we want to give you free access to that. So yeah,
that's wonderful. So now with your subscriptions, do you have like handouts as well, or is it video library only? What all comes with the subscription?
It comes with the subscription. So within some of these series is what we're calling them. There may be some handouts. We've got several handouts of different exercises and things like that. But there's also under each video, there is a full written comment section that goes along with the video. So those people that like to read more so than, or do both, they have that. We also have any equipment that we use to demonstrate what we're doing in the video is linked in the comment section. So, a lot of those are from Amazon, but we at least want to give somebody someplace to start to figure out what they're doing. And then the interesting thing with the business link is that there are shortened URLs for every single video. So if I was a business and you came to me and you were struggling with the transfer getting mom out of bed, I could go right to that link and I could text it to you or email it to you, and it drops you right there, so that you don't have to go searching and looking for things. So
we also have a series called the Home Safety Toolkit. And that's to try to to help bridge that gap between bringing home a loved one from a healthcare facility and bringing them back home. It's a checklist. You can get any checklist online. What's different about ours is we've divided the home up into 7 areas, and then under each video. So you take that caregiver checklist and you go through your home as a caregiver and say, yeah, I'm concerned about this area. I'm concerned about this. And you could either take it to the therapist before you leave, or the social worker before you leave, and say, these are my concerns. Or you can go and you can interact with the PDF. And what we've done is we've hyperlinked each video to that particular section or that particular area that you're concerned about. So maybe you're a handy person, right? So you can click on that link and go, oh yeah, I could put down non-skid tape on the steps out to the garage. I could do that. And so then you could click on that. It will show you how to do it. And then it has another link on it where you can click and it will show you the product that was featured that we used in that particular video. So that is a PDF available to both subscriptions. You can print that off. I like that you're, to me as a company or organization, if I had one of my clients come to me and go, hey, I'm really concerned, what an opportunity that would be as a company to go, hey, we hear you. We want to validate your concerns and see what we can do about it and help bridge that gap.
Well, and I know for us, oftentimes when we're doing an intake for a new client, they had no discharge coordination planning. The home wasn't really discussed, very briefly, if at all. And, they're just left saying, what do we do now? And, I think you guys are really, providing such an invaluable, resource for these families, because it's happening far too often, much more now than we've seen over the years. Which I want to talk about resources. Obviously you guys are a tremendous resource, but in local communities, some viewers and listeners may not be familiar with this, but there's, their local area agency on aging, and they have wonderful resources as well. But would the two of you mind explaining to viewers and listeners what exactly that local area agency on aging is?
So the area, every state has them, and they're usually federally funded. And so each state has at least a handful. For Illinois, we have 13. And what an area agency on aging is usually a not-for-profit organization, and they have all kinds of resources. And so, like for example, Meals on Wheels is usually run through your local area agency on aging. They might have a senior health insurance program, which is called SHIP, and maybe they help with any insurance questions you might have. So they're really a lot of hands-on, and sometimes they will send a counselor out to the house. They could send a counselor out to the house, or lots of times they just have counselors on the phone that you could call, and the counselor will walk you through their programs that they have to see what you may, or you see what you may qualify for. So the area agency on aging, and you don't have to be older. You could be like ours in particular. We have a military base. We have Scott Air Force Base near us, so they're huge into veterans, and then also people with disabilities as well as as far as helping them out is concerned too. So to me they are often overlooked. That's an overlooked resource, and boy, oh boy, they have a ton of resources that they could help you with, or at least point you in the right direction.
Well, and sadly, it just seems like all these wonderful resources that you and I know about, the families don't know about them,
Right.
and this is the $1 million question. How do we help educate these families so that they become aware of all these wonderful resources that are out there? It just boggles my mind every time we run into a family and They didn't know that there was home care. They didn't know that there was durable medical equipment that Medicare can help cover the cost on, and I think that just tends to lend itself to the success that you guys have had, and, others that are, trying to help raise awareness for all these issues and bring these resources to the forefront. So, kudos to you guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So let's go back to your road trip. I think I would love to be on that road trip. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
I think we'd have a good time.
Yes. So if there happens to be a company or organization or someone listening or watching this, and they want to try to get you guys to do a stop in their area, are you open to invitations, or how would you prefer they go about reaching out to you?
Yeah, they could, on our website, we have a contact page. They could send us an email. We've got our email address listed on there. We've got our office phone listed on there. They could reach out to us. We're on almost all the social media channels. So they could reach out to us on that. I've been trying to slowly kind of roll that out, that this is coming up in September. So they could reach out to us, DM us on there. I mean, here's going to be our path. So this is kind of what we say. We're going to be going through this state, and this state. And this one, we're probably going, the biggest chunk will be used down I-24 and I-75. Right. So if you're on that path, reach out to us, and we'll see what we can do. And the other thing too is we're always looking for sponsors. We don't, almost with the exception of the caregiver equipment, a lot of this equipment that we make videos for comes out of our pocket. We just buy it, and then we turn around and we want to raise people's awareness that it's there. So if anybody's interested in sponsoring this road trip, we certainly wouldn't turn that away by any means. Any company, any organization that feels a kinship towards our mission, raising awareness as we go along, of the area agencies on aging, of local lending closets, try it before you buy it kind of thing. Right. And then education of safe aging in place. We certainly would invite that as well.
Well, and Christina, you mentioned a word that kind of sends off bells when I hear it, and that's a lending closet. We, this is pre-COVID. We had actually 2 semi-trailers full of medical equipment and supplies, and we still have a decent amount, but we really kind of had pulled back on that a little bit just because of space, because we have so much. But, and it's your typical stuff. It's walkers, shower chairs, bedside commodes, cases of Depends, things of that nature.
Sure.
And the reason we were receiving so much is, one, we weren't reselling it. We would come into, contact with a family. Maybe we're helping them. Maybe they're just asking questions. And they didn't have the money to go buy a new walker or a shower chair. And sometimes they didn't even know what those things were, but they were an answer to their prayers. And the reason I think so many organizations and, communities were donating these items to us is because a family would be done with it for whatever reason. And sometimes they would try to sell it, and nobody's buying it on eBay or, Facebook Marketplace. So they'd go to the senior center, they would donate it there. The senior center has some decent supply and inventory of it already. And they knew we were just trying to help because we cover the bottom half of Michigan with our company, and they know we're loaning it out and, trying to help people with it. But it just seems like, families aren't aware of that either. They don't know that there's people like you who are trying to help them, and, or their local senior center that oftentimes has these, pieces of equipment or even supplies to help them out with. What do you guys find now that, you've been doing this for, it started in 2020? What's the biggest issue you have found? Is it people knowing about resources? Is it people knowing what Medicare will help cover? Is it even knowing that there's equipment out there that could answer their problem or their situation? What's the biggest issue you have found?
I think and I think it kind of snowballs because I think there's a lot of, and this is just my opinion, but I think there's a lot of issues that come up. But I think the snowball factor is we are not thinking ahead and preparing ahead of time. And then when we get to that point, we have all of this stuff going on and we don't know where to go. We don't know where to get equipment. We didn't realize we were going to have it. We don't know where to get the different resources that we need. So one of the things that we continue to, climb the mountain and yell about all the time, is being prepared ahead of time.
Right.
And I know it's hard to think about this type of thing because, we've had people tell us before, people are not going to worry about replacing their roof until it starts leaking on your head, until the incident happens. But just being prepared ahead of time, because if you start looking in educating yourself on being prepared, you're going to start finding a lot of these resources. You're going to start hearing a lot of these resources because there's so many of us out there advocating for caregivers and individuals. It's just trying to get people's attention to let's try to be prepared ahead of time, because we are here with the resources and we want to help you.
That's the biggest thing, I think, in knowing that it's out there. I think we get so busy with our day to day. I mean, there are statistics out there, Lance, where a certain percentage of caregivers don't even identify as caregivers, right?
Exactly.
I mean, so what do you do with that? Now that you don't even identify as a caregiver, you don't even know to start looking for resources that you could benefit from some help and stuff. So yeah, it's just a tough thing to get the word out. And that's one of the things that really, you might as well stab me in the heart when you tell me this. Oh, I wish I would have known about you 3 years ago when I was doing I'm just like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
We just got started 3 years ago. I don't know what,
Yeah.
But it's just, and it feels like, as business people, it feels like we live it every day, right? So it feels like we are shouting it from the mountain that be prepared. Come, if you don't know, start with us. We'll point you in the right, go to your area agency on aging. They'll point you in the right direction. Right. Go to a lending closet. They'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you, which is your favorite part of the adaptive equipment caregiving corner? Do you like making the videos, or are you more of the finding the ideas and then you go and you have Cindy make the video?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, Lance. I'm going to be honest, as a speech therapist, most people, when they hear physical therapy, the words physical therapy, it encompasses all three disciplines: PT, OT, ST. And usually most people, when they need therapy, they would rather, we're independent, right? We're independent human beings, and we have been for a long time. So I would rather you show me how to go get stronger so that I could walk over there and do it myself instead of asking for some help, So physical therapy gets it's up there as far as like when we go out into the community, people always go, oh, you're a physical therapist? I got this shoulder, And so, but speech therapy, when I go, oh, I'm a speech therapist. So like, I had a speech therapist when I was in second grade, So.
Well, and is that because physical therapy has been more recognized as the truer of the therapy disciplines? Because now you have music therapy. The newer ones aren't really as acknowledged in the way they should be. Is that what?
I think it's just because, in my opinion, I think that people are independent. They want to maintain that independence. And if I don't have to talk, if I can't talk because maybe I have aphasia, no big deal. As long as I can still go do it myself, as long as everything here still works, or I can roll to it or whatever, I'm golden, right? But if when I lose my ability to talk, it's not as big a deal when I lose my ability to walk.
Sure.
And I think that's the big thing. So, when people mistake me for an occupational therapist or a physical therapist, I'm like, okay, just because I know what you're talking about. I know that you understand the concept of therapy. So, yeah. So, but as far as what, so Cindy gets featured a lot in our videos. And then I'm more of the, because the speech therapy, we also deal a lot with dementia, people living with dementia. So if we get some products that come in for, an activity for a caregiver that has a loved one that's living with dementia, that would be a video that I do, or something to do with eating or self-feeding skills, maintaining self-feeding skills. I would probably do that too. But, I don't know. I feel like myself, I'm kind of a creative person. So I think, coming up with the idea of how to best most succinctly present this product to the audience. Mm-hmm. I enjoy doing that. So,
okay. What's your favorite part, Cindy?
Oh, I'll tell you what, I'm pretty passionate about all of it. I'm like a kid in a candy shop with the new products, because I love that. I do enjoy making the videos, but I enjoy being out and educating and talking to people too, one-on-one. It's I've loved that all my career, and I laugh sometimes because my parents were educators, and I was headed toward teaching, and they're like, you don't want to do that. So the educating part, I've always loved that, and just
it's very energizing being out in the community. I really enjoy even when we go out and do the home safety evaluations, it's just, you just meet so many wonderful people and caregivers that sometimes all it is just going, hey, man, you're doing a really good job. Way to go. Look at this. This is awesome. So, but it's very energizing. And then when we go out and we go on the road and you get to meet all these and the coolest part I think about going on the road is when somebody goes, hey, look what I did. I invented this. And it's, it's a stick with a hook on it. And you're like, that's awesome. Brilliant. And just that they've recognized, that even a wooden spoon to get something off the top shelf is a piece of adaptive equipment now, and so having people engage with us like that is very energizing, I think.
Absolutely. So just a couple more questions for you ladies. And again, thank you so much for your time with us today. I think this is going to really be a great piece of resource for our viewers and listeners. And we'll have all of your links and everything up on the screen as well as in the show notes. And anytime we can help support the work you're doing, we're more than happy to do so.
We appreciate it. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you both. And I want to find out, and you both have touched on it, but I want to see and ask both of you, do either of you have a comment or something somebody shared with you where you're like, wow, we're actually doing it. Like our vision is actually happening. When was that moment for you? And what was the comment or email or phone call, whatever it was?
Yeah. Go ahead. Have you got something in mind?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, most of the comments that we get are, from YouTube or we're on TikTok. We reach a lot of people on TikTok. It's just like we got one the other day that Cindy has developed a couple of products. I think she is a secret occupational therapist because we've got a couple of patents on a couple of products.
Wonderful.
And there was one product in particular, it's called a full knee pillow. And it's for side sleepers, and it goes from your knees all the way down to your feet, and it helps align your spine. We got a comment the other day. We put a video out talking about it, and she said that that she had one and that it improved her sleep tenfold. And I'm like, that was awesome. That made me feel happy. I know it made Cindy feel happy, but it was just to know that, we are in this video, we're trying to raise people's awareness, and she already had one and she was already benefiting from that product. It was just like, that's cool.
Yeah. And the thing, we've gotten so many nice comments over the several years that we've done this. And I remember one and it's not been that long ago, and it was actually from a younger person, and I don't even remember what video it was on. It was demonstrating something or how to do something, and she said something about, you saved my life, and she said, no, literally, you have saved my life. And it's just, that's what we do. That's why we do what we do.
Yeah. But that's when we started getting those comments and stuff, it's just like, oh, okay, we are reaching some people. It really makes up for those times where people are just like, I wish I would have found you 3 years ago. You're just like, oh, but when people say that, you're just like, wow, that's awesome. So we're really happy to be able to have that reach. Yes. So
do either of you have a favorite piece of advice that you like to give to your viewers?
Yeah. You want to?
Yes, my first advice to our viewers, especially the caregivers, is make sure you are allowing your loved one to do as much as they can. Don't assume that you have to do everything for them. You need to engage them, give them cues if they need, and see what they can do. Because time and time again, we'll go into a home and they'll say, oh my gosh, it's taking me, I have to fully lift Mom up out of the seat. And we'll go in and say, hey,
Mom,
hey, Mom, will you scoot forward for me? Will you put your hands here on the thing? Will you lean forward and get up? And Mom gets up with pretty much ease. And so, And I know that, individuals and in families, and there's dynamics and things. And
Sure.
sometimes, the individual may not do for the caregiver as they would do for somebody else outside the home. But I always say, try to let them do as much as they can.
Yeah, it's a win-win situation because it's going to be less work on you as the caregiver. It's going to be easier on your body. And then as an adult, it's going to help them maintain that functional independence, which equates to dignity.
Right.
Now I've got dignity. Yeah, it might not have looked like what it would look like when I was 21, right? But now I can scoot forward in the chair, and maybe I don't have to have a verbal cue to be able to scoot forward in the chair, and just telling me to scoot forward in the chair, and then standing up and look what I can do. That is awesome.
Yeah. It's rewarding for both. Absolutely.
Yeah, it really is. It is a win-win situation for all involved. Yeah.
Very true.
So just a couple more questions. What myths do you guys like to dispel about people who are experiencing any physical sort of limitations? Maybe they don't have the ability to do X, Y, and Z, but you would assess them and say, well, actually you could. What are those myths, and what are some that people could be aware of?
Yeah, and it probably comes back to, like the functional independence, that my loved one can't do this. Well, let's look at it. Let's look at how you're doing the activity. And is there a better way to get the job done? Can we break it down in smaller steps? To not just automatically assume that because you don't have time, I mean no disrespect when I say this, but because you are a busy caregiver, that it's just easier for you to do it yourself.
Right.
Give them a, when you get a chance, give them a chance, give them a second, to say, maybe scoot forward. Okay. So then maybe they can't with the verbal cue. Well, then tap their shoulder, or give them a visual cue. Okay. I want you to walk forward in the chair, scoot forward on your rump, and maybe that's a visual cue, so, I guess don't just automatically assume that just because they didn't do it that one time that they're forever not going to be able to do it. That people are trainable.
Yeah. And I also want caregivers to know, especially, that you certainly are not alone.
Yes.
And things that you are experiencing, I can guarantee there are many, many other people that are experiencing that.
Yeah, that is huge. That is huge. And reach out. There's so many people that want to help. Yeah. And in so many resources. Don't be afraid. No man is an island. You don't have to do this by yourself. We're all out here for you.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's a great point.
Absolutely. Last question for both of you. We'll see if your answers are the same. If we were to talk to you guys in 5 years, where would the adaptive equipment and caregiving corner be?
That's awesome. That's a great question.
Ooh.
To me, I'd like to, just ideally, I'd love to be able to do 3 or 4 road trips and instead of a van, Lance, now we've got like an RV. Maybe it's an RV that's been created for people living with disabilities, and we go from expo to expo, and we have all these pieces of equipment, and and we're on the road doing these educational and spots in these health and wellness shows and stuff. The majority of the year. To me, that's where and making videos on the road instead of in our studio downstairs.
Yeah,
that's where I'd love to be in 5 years.
Yeah. And I totally agree with that. But the other thing that I would love to have is I would love to have some type of easy to use app or something like that is going to handhold a caregiver through their process that will kind of guide them through and have that into people's hands that they know enough about it to know, I know where I need to go because I'm stuck. Or, I've got something coming up. I've got a hospitalization plan for my loved one. I know right where to go. And they're going to lead me to exactly what I need. Yeah. I would love that. Yeah. Don't know what it looks like yet, but I would love that.
And we don't know the first thing about writing code for apps, but that'd be awesome. But
hey, why not?
That's exactly right.
It gives you something to talk about on the road trip.
That's exactly right.
That's right. We'll write code on the road trip.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say thank you both to you. I just think you guys are remarkable, and the work is just tremendous and so needed. But it's refreshing to see it being done with such passion and heart, first and foremost. And we hope to have you guys back on sooner than 5 years. But
Sure, yes.
and I just appreciate you both, and thank you again so much for your time today.
Thank you,
for
Liz. We
having
really
us.
appreciate you
Yeah.
having us.
It's our pleasure. Thank you both, and have a safe road trip.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us today here at All Home Care Matters. All Home Care Matters is here to help families as they navigate these long-term care issues. We invite you to visit us at allhomecarematters.com, where there's a private, secure, fillable form where you can give us feedback, show ideas, or if you have questions. Every form is read and responded to. And remember, you can listen to the show on any of your favorite podcast streaming platforms or watch the show on our official YouTube channel. Just make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. We would also like to say thank you again to Christina and Cindy from Adaptive Equipment and the Caregiving Corner for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you next time here at All Home Care Matters.
Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to you joining us again on another episode of All Home Care Matters. To learn more about the show and to connect with us, visit us at allhomecarematters.com.